Hey, teacher friend. We are fast approaching September, and with that comes the onslaught of fall scheduling and all of the things that so many of us are experiencing at this time of year. And, as we head into fall, not only to run our businesses, but to be with our families and for your kids to go back to school and all of that stuff, I thought today we would have a little chat about burnout and how we can. Our volume is really quiet. Check your volume there, Craig. I have the settings regular. But I'll check it if we need to. Let me know if you can hear me, y'all. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how to thrive in our business, in our personal lives without burning out. And that is the goal today. And we are going to be chatting about 3 different things that we can do in our business, 3 different areas that we can look at in order to make sure that we are not falling into burnout. And we're going to define what I mean by burnout, because burnout is a term that is often thrown around without really understanding what it means. So we're going to be talking about what chronic burnout is and what just feeling burnt out is. So today we're going to look at all of those things. But before we do that, I am going to go behind the scenes and make sure we're live in all the places and spaces. So please let me know where you're tuning in from today. And let me know if my volume is all right. And I will be back in just a moment. All right, so I'm going to check and make sure that everybody's plugged in properly. I believe that we are. So let's see here. We're going to bring up the topic today. I'm waiting to get a couple more opinions here about volume just to make sure that we are okay. So let me know if you can hear me, y'all. And if the volume is weirder than it normally is. All right, so our topic of the day is how to thrive without burning out. And we are going to dive into 3 different things that we can examine in our businesses to make sure that as we go into this very busy season, that we are good to go. All right, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. She's tuning in from the lake. Awesome. All right, we have some great things set up for you here today. So before we get to all of that goodness, if you drop the word thrive down below, we're going to send you the show notes. So we've put together a summary of what we're talking about today, and we have some links that we'll send you as well. So if you are on Instagram or if you are on Facebook and you would like the Savvy Sara bot to message you, give us the word thrive and we'll make sure that she reaches out. If you are watching on YouTube, look in the live chat or in the post description and you will also get a hold of that as well. So let's get to the point. I see Carol's over on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, the magic word unfortunately won't work, but if you look in the live chat, I have pinned a special link that you can click. So let's unpack this issue a little bit because I want to do some framing around this topic before we get into the 3 points that we're going to talk about today. So I do not mean to use the word burnout lightly here because I think it's something that's thrown around a lot. And let's just do a quick definition. Like chronic burnout, right, is something that, many of us have experienced, and it's not fun. And it can take a really long time to get out of chronic burnout. There's a lot of different symptoms that go along with it. And it often requires intervention, whether that's through therapy or coaching or other forms of professional support. It's not something that can be easily fixed with just like a weekend off or a short vacation. So, if you are feeling chronically burnt out, please reach out and get professional help. more of what we're talking about today is feeling burnt out, right? Not being in the state of burnt out, but feeling burnt out. And, what we're doing here is we're examining what we can look at in our businesses so that we can avoid letting that feeling turn into chronic burnout. And I think it's especially important to talk about this at this time of year because we're headed into a really busy season and y'all have a lot that you're juggling on your plates right now. So, and I just want to say, like, if you have ever experienced chronic burnout, I am one of those people who has been in that state and it took a really long time to come out of it. I feel for you. And please go get help. All right. So what we are going to be looking at is several different things. We're going to be looking at 3 different things to figure out how we can avoid this. Now, let's think about some of the main causes, right? What are some of the main causes of, feeling like you're working too hard in your business and all of this stuff, and the things that keep us from feeling like we're thriving? One that the first one that pops to mind is chronic overwork. That is spreading ourselves too thin and not having enough of ourselves to go around, essentially, and forcing ourselves to be in that chronic overwork mode for too long. There also might be things like a work-life imbalance. And of course, that seems to go along with chronic overworking. But, when we're not prioritizing things that fill our cup and stuff like that, that can also lead to feeling right? And another thing that has recently come up, I run a group inside a program inside of the Speakeasy Cooperative called How to Plan. And we talk a lot about planning, and planning is something that I think the skill of planning is something that's super important and that requires a lot of practice in order to get very good at it. And one of the things that we touched on in one of our recent classes was this idea of spending too much time on tasks that feel urgent. So if you find yourself in that state where you are consistently looking for those urgent tasks and you feel like you're always putting out fires rather than spending time on the important things, listen up. All right. These 3 things that we're going to cover today really play into that. So let's get to our first tip of the day, our first talking point, I should say. Okay, so I want to talk about what I'm calling a client stress load, right? So one of the things that can make us feel uncomfortable in our businesses and just, unhappy and feeling burnt out is client stress. And, this can come from so many different things, right? So I have like a few things to cover under this. So if we want to reduce our client stress load, I'm not actually saying like reduce your client load, although maybe for some of you I am actually saying that. What we're talking more about is thinking about client alignment. So it's really important as small business owners, people who are in charge of all of the things, including bringing on new clients, it is important to choose the right people. So attracting clients and choosing clients that are a fit for your teaching style, for your values, for the way that you run your business. I want you to think about who are those people that you want to work with specifically, whether those are people who they're highly committed, or maybe they practice regularly. They respect your boundaries. Getting clear on who are those people that you want to invite into your business can help us reduce our client stress load, essentially. So when we do that, when we have those people who are committed, who practice regularly, if practice is a thing in your studio, because it's not a thing in all studios, right? And they respect your boundaries, they align with the values of the business, that's going to make not only your teaching experience more fulfilling, but running the business more fulfilling and a lot less stressful. Another thing that we can think of in this area is how do we streamline our workload, right? When we start attracting the right kind of people into our businesses, we tend to spend less time on these urgent tasks, these fire putting out tasks, dealing with difficult clients, whether it's the student themselves or if it's the parent, if you're working with K through 12. And that allows you to focus more on the work that you love. So when we bring in and when we're choosy about those people that we bring into our businesses, we streamline our workload automatically. It just happens, which is beautiful. Or at least part of it gets streamlined, not 100% of it. That's something to talk about another day. A final thing to think about here is that when we are bringing in the right people, right, that gives us the opportunity to then focus on building long-term relationships, right? So this gives us energy to foster those strong, long-lasting relationships with clients who genuinely appreciate and value your work. And that leads to greater stability in the business and less client turnover. So when we give ourselves permission to really focus on the clients that you can serve the best and the clients who are a good fit for what you are offering, how you are offering it, etc., we have reduced our stress load. If that resonates with you right now, let me know. I see we've got a few people joining in on Instagram. Hey, Instagrammers, let us know where you're tuning in from today. I would love to know. And let's see here. Sorry, my eCam will not come back up. So that's our first point here. How do we reduce our client stress load? And I'd love to know your opinion on that, right? The 3 things that we covered were, making sure that we're in alignment with our clients. That's going to streamline our workload, and that's going to allow us to build long-term relationships. If you have anything you'd like to share about that specific part of our topic today, please feel free to share that below. I know that, I can share personal experiences where I held on to clients that really should have been released and allowed to go to another studio. I held on to them thinking that I could make it right, that by releasing them, I was giving up, that I was failing them, that I was failing myself, when in reality, by holding on to them, I was failing them and I was failing myself and I was failing the business. And it created a huge amount of stress that was very hard to release. And it was something that I would carry home with me from work. I would think about it as I was going to bed. It just wasn't good. So it's really important to get serious about reducing that client stress load. So let's move on to item number 2. All right. So if we are wanting to focus on thriving in our business without burnout, another thing that we can do is think about how do we create a sustainable business, right? Rebecca says the struggle between running a boutique multi-teacher studio and needing volume is a serious stressor. Absolutely. I can see that. I can see that a lot. And what she means, like, by a boutique, just to define it by those who might not be familiar with that term, a very high touch, high level high touch, high level studio that has really high level offerings, that go above and beyond what might be seen as, like, quote unquote normal in our industry. Craig shares on YouTube. He says, I felt a huge stress relief this morning as I had a pair of twins I chose to teach from 6:30 to 8 on Wednesday mornings. As their school had a late start, I put boundaries up this year and said no. Way to go, Craig. I personally do not function at 6:30 in the morning, no matter what. And aside from maybe like sitting on a couch and drinking some tea. So I'm really proud of you for holding those boundaries. That's amazing. All right. So the second part, creating a sustainable business, right? How do we build sustainable businesses? There's a few things. First, it's really important to think about how can we align our life goals into the business? How can we bring those into the business so that the business is aligned with our personal goals and our business goals? Maybe one of the goals that you have this year is to achieve a better work-life balance. And I know the word balance is loaded, and it's never going to be 50-50, but maybe that is something that you've been thinking about it. Maybe you've been thinking about having more time for creative projects, or you've been thinking about how can I increase my income without overloading myself, overworking myself, and spreading myself too thin. So getting clear on your goals, getting clear on your core values, that can be really important. And if you haven't done that work yet, or maybe you've thought about it, but kind of danced around it a little bit, I encourage you to think about that. I encourage you to identify your core values, to sit down and think about what are my goals for the fall. What are my goals for, going into this new season where I know there's a lot of transition, especially if you are a parent and you have kiddos. What would you like to see? Identifying that is super important. Oh, I love that. Okay, so Rebecca shares that Mel Robbins uses the term work-life boundaries. I like that better. Work-life boundaries is much better than work-life balance. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. All right, so aligning our life goals, right? That's one of the things in building a sustainable business. The next thing, when we do that, right? When we start aligning our life goals, one of the things that we're giving to ourselves is that we've given this little movement towards avoiding feeling burnt out. Because when your business is aligned with your values, with your passions, it's going to energize you rather than drain you. And that is something that is really huge when it comes to reducing the likelihood of burnout or feeling burnt out. Kind of final bit here on building a sustainable business. Now, there's so many things that I could talk about here, but I want to keep it succinct today. So when you focus on sustainability, when you think about sustainability, it requires us to ask ourselves, what is the business model that will sustain me and also fulfill me, right? What is the business model that will allow me to thrive, not just as a business owner, but as a human being? Because as those small business owners, we often get sucked into looking at numbers, to looking at how packed is my schedule. That starts defining our success. But how does your model support long-term success and long-term fulfillment, right? So really thinking about planning for the long term is a key element of building a sustainable business. Thinking about what do you want to happen down the road in your business? What do you want to happen down the road as a human? And getting clear on those things can be really, really useful. And this is the kind of stuff that, many of us either, I don't want to say the word avoid, but maybe there's some avoidance there, or it comes back to what I said earlier in the broadcast. We spend so much time running around putting out fires and spending time on urgent tasks that we don't build in enough time for this type of thinking. And that's something that can, over time, lead to feeling crappy about our jobs. So if that's resonating, let me know. All right. We see a couple more people joined us on Instagram. Hey. So nice to see you over there. Let me make sure. Sorry, my thing here is being a little bit goofy. Okay, there we go. All right. The third thing here. All right, let me bring up the third thing. All right. And I'm going to check one other thing behind the scenes because I've got some weirdness happening in here, and I want to make sure that people are not searching around for the wrong thing. Okay, good. It is actually working the way it's supposed to work. Sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, the third thing here. Okay. Let's talk about money. So why do we overwork? Because we feel there isn't enough, right? Why do we spread ourselves too thin? Why do we take on too many clients? Why do we take on other small jobs and things like that because there isn't enough. And when it comes to raising rates, that is a giant conversation, and it is very nuanced and it is very individualized. But overall, in our industry, there is, I can say with a lot of surety here, most teachers are not charging enough in order to support their business and in order to support their lives. So if you are finding yourself in a space where you are overworked and stretched too thin, or maybe even if you are not stretched too thin yet, but you know that if you get to quote unquote max capacity, you're still not going to be able to meet and make ends meet. I want you to look at your numbers. I invite you to look at your numbers and to think about what you need to make in order to live a fulfilled life, to feel like you're thriving and not burnt out. Now, a couple of points here that might be helpful in terms of, how do I raise my rates with confidence? A lot of people, I'm seeing so many discussions in forums right now. Maybe not actually right now, but I was seeing them earlier in the summer. People who were thinking about raising their rates for the fall, but really nervous about it. With everything that's going on right now, I totally get it. But also, the majority of us, our costs have gone up. I'm not talking about personal costs. Of course, those have gone up, but also a lot of business costs have gone up. Almost every single tool that you use, subscription that you have, has probably gone up in this past year, even if it was a small amount. Now, for the most of us, that small amount, those $2, $3 a month, maybe $10, $20 a month, it's still worth it using those services. And I see a lot of teachers who hem and haw about raising their rates because they're afraid that people will dislike them as a human because of that. So I have a few points that if you are in that boat, I have a few points that I want you to ponder. Okay. So one is when we're making those raises, right? When we are increasing price, it is really important to clarify your value and to be able to very clearly communicate that value to clients, right? When we're able to do that and we're able to really think about what is it that I am providing for them outside of, hey, I'm teaching piano lessons, I'm teaching guitar lessons, I'm teaching voice lessons. That's not really what those people are purchasing. That's not really what the end result is of working with you. When you are able to dig into what are the transformations that my students experience, what is that real value that they are experiencing, and being able to communicate that, it makes it much easier to raise rates with confidence. This also allows you to stand out in the market and position yourself as an expert in the field. So if you haven't done that type of work, if you're thinking, I'm just selling piano lessons, I'm just selling voice lessons, I encourage you to think differently about it. That's not the only thing that you're providing. And when we're able to really understand what you are providing outside of teaching people to sing higher or to read music or to play a song, you are able to draw in clients who see that true value of what you're offering, and they are willing to invest at higher price points. So understanding how to market that is a key part of learning how to build a sustainable business and really thrive in the industry. And I have a few more things that I'm going to cover with that. Let me just make sure. Yes, Lizarino is, man, I really wish that like Ecamm would let me bring up comments from from Instagram. They said that they were going to let me do it, and then they didn't. Lizarino Hearns over on Instagram says, yes, we sell the so that. And let me define what she means by that. I love you, Liz. So the so that, right, is the benefit of a feature. And let me give a very clear example. So let's say, and I'm actually going to tie it to a feature for a business, like one of your services that you might not think of. Let's say, for example, that you have a brick and mortar studio outside of your home, right? And you have a parking lot. I know. Fabulous, right? What is that all about? Well, you have a well-lit parking lot so that parents can feel confident and assured when they are dropping their kids off for lessons that their children will be safe walking into your building. Or another so that, right? So that you don't have to drive around town and do the quick drop off in front, that you can bring your children there and wait in the car and sit with your Starbucks and have 30 minutes to yourself, right? These are the types of so that statements that really allow us to communicate the full value of what you are providing. It's not just piano lessons. There's so many other things that go around that. The so that's are important. Okay, so I have a couple of comments to bring up, and then we're going to do a little wrap up. Give me a moment. I see Ron, my lovely friend and yoga teacher. He says, great point about planning, but I found that during and after COVID, I've stopped long-term planning as everything seemed so fluid. Absolutely. That is something that so many of us experienced, including myself. I used, prior to that, I'm like a huge physical planner person, and I was using my planner really religiously. And then, life changed and it did not feel right to use a planner anymore. And so I had to find new systems to use. I'm consistently reevaluating my planning systems, and I go between using books, and you can't see them, but they're off on the wall here. I have like 3 different whiteboards that I visit every week, and that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you. Rebecca says, best money I ever spent was booking sessions with biz coaches like you and Michelle to help me draft my rate raise template. Now, when we have to raise rates, we pull up the template and it's so much less stressful. And this is brilliant. She says, we literally include bullet points of the added value in the last year and how their money improves their teacher's life. That is brilliant. And great point, Karen. They are not just investing in the lessons, they're also investing in the amount of time that you have put into your expertise and your education, the hours that go into things like competitions and recitals, etc. There's so many things that go on there. All right, so why am I talking about all of this? All right, so what did we just go over? We talked about when we're trying to thrive in our business and avoid burnout, what are some of the things that we can do? 1, we can attract the right clients. 2, we can align our core values and our personal goals to our business model. And 3, we can examine our rates and really think about, am I charging enough to meet my needs? You probably aren't. And how do I raise my rates with confidence? Y'all, this is something that I teach, and this is something that we are going to be doing this fall. So if any of those things sound attractive to you and you are having a hard time figuring out how to do those, or if you are like, you know what, I want to do those, but really I need accountability to do this, and I need somebody to walk with me. I need, I feel inspired by being around amazing groups of teachers. Bravepants Branding is starting on October 2nd. Yes, branding is something that will touch on all of those things, and it will help you market in a way that really allows you to attract those ideal clients and to think about what is the business model that I'm using? What are the rates that I'm charging? Those are all the things that we're going to be talking about. And if you are interested in learning more about that, reach out. Drop the word Thrive down below or look for the link in the description in YouTube. There are 12 spots in this year's cohort. And right now we have an early bird discount that expires on August 30th. If you are unsure, if you've been thinking about this and you're like, oh, I just don't know if this is right for me, I don't know how to budget for this, we got payment plans, y'all. We have fantastic payment plans so that you do not have to pay all up front. You can spread this out over 6 months, over 8 months. And if you want to chat it through and see if this is the right move for you at this time, I want you to reach out to me. I have just a couple of spots on my schedule this week. We can hop on a quick phone call. I actually have one of those phone calls in like half an hour right now. And I really encourage you to take this class. This is something that will be hugely helpful to you. We have had over 100 people take Bravepants Branding over the past 5 years, and I keep getting stories from clients years later reaching out to me to tell me thank you for this class because it totally changed the way I run my business. And I would love for that to be you. So reach out. You can check it out by going to savvymusicstudio.com/getbrave, or you can look at all the links that we have in all of the places and spaces. If you have questions about the class, please reach out. We are going to do a quick recap here. Kathy says, very helpful. Thank you from a music school owner, 27 years in business. 27 years, Kathy, that is fantastic. What's the name of your studio? I'd love to know. Very exciting. All right, we are going, thank you. Liz says, can we talk about the brilliance of Bravepants Branding, even in just the name? She's obsessed. Yes. I am going to be making a post shortly about where the word Bravepants came from, because I just stumbled upon a post I wrote about it, back in 2021. And I forgot that I wrote that post, so I'll have to repost it on the main page. I think y'all will enjoy it. All right, let's do a fast recap here. All right. Are you feeling stretched thin as a music teacher? We're going to start that over again because I'm supposed to take the freaking things off my page, and I don't want my lovely assistant Caitlin to have to take those off. Do it again. See, y'all, you guys get to see all the weird behind the scenes stuff that happens, because I'm not afraid to tell you, when I do these recaps, we repurpose them. And so I want to make sure that this is a clean video. Let's do it. So if you tuned in late, listen up, because this is important stuff. Here we go. Are you feeling stretched thin as a music teacher? We do so much, and we are about to head into a very busy fall season. And I understand that, it can feel difficult to do all the things. And so what we want to look at today are 3 different areas where we can really focus on thriving in our business so that we can avoid that burnt out feeling that comes from being a small business owner. So the first area here is, if you want to thrive in your business, I want you to focus on attracting the right students to reduce stress. Because when your clients are aligned with your teaching style, with your values, with the way that you run your business, these are the people that are committed. They practice regularly. If practice is a thing in your studio, it's not a thing in everybody's studio. And they respect your boundaries. When we have those people, that makes your teaching experience more fulfilling. It also makes it easier for you to streamline your workload, because you're going to spend less time dealing with difficult clients and more time focusing on the things that light you up. This also allows us to build more long-term lasting relationships, which leads to greater stability and less turnover in our businesses. So if you are not really focused in on your ideal clients, now is the time to think about that. The second thing, we want to think about, how can we create a sustainable business? One of the best ways that we can start doing that is to align our business with our life goals and our core values. And that really allows us to have a business that energizes us rather than drains us. And that reduces the likelihood of burnout. And this invites us to start thinking more long-term rather than just going for quick wins and this short-term planning. It encourages us to think about long-term planning in our businesses, and so that we can develop a business model that's adaptable and it is built for long-term success and fulfillment. The third thing, you want to thrive in your business and avoid being burnt out, I invite you to examine the rates that you're charging. The vast majority of people in our industry are undercharging, and they have not gotten friendly with their numbers to really figure out, what do I need to charge in order for me to make what I need, not to survive, but to thrive. And if you are feeling nervous about doing that and you want some quick tips on how to raise your rates with confidence, I want you to focus on really clarifying your value, being able to communicate the value that you are providing very clearly. And we're not talking about the value of the piano lesson, but everything that is attached to the so that statements, right? Every single feature that comes with your lesson. What is the so that statement? I use X, Y, and Z so that it allows you to do this. It allows you to achieve this. Really being able to communicate the value that ties in with the hopes and dreams of your ideal clients. When you are able to do that, you are better able to stand out in the market and position yourself as a specialist and an expert, and attract clients who value that high quality, and they are more willing to pay the premium price. All right. If this is something that you would like to explore, I invite you to look at our program that starts on October 2nd. That is Bravepants Branding and Marketing. Branding is not just a logo or an identity. It is the foundation for building a business that thrives. And we are going to have a fantastic time in this fall's class. So if you would like to get a hold of the information about that, drop the word thrive down below and the Savvy Sara bot will reach out to you. All right, that will be it for today. Thank you so much for listening in. We will be back in September for a really big, amazing training that we are going to be running on September 11th. And until then, stay savvy and stay you, because you are an amazing teacher and there is no one in the world quite like you. And I think you're pretty dang awesome. Thanks for being here, y'all. We'll see you next time.